Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Nighttime. Today we are going to be talking some new topics including NCAA swimming, college baseball, and the release of the new college football video game and our picks for the cover athletes. Stay tuned because Nighttime starts right now.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
Welcome back to Nighttime. I am Maddie Glass and of course joined here by Patrick Preverty, who we're in a new location. How do you feel about this new location?
I love it, man. I mean, new set, new me. I think this kind of makes everything feel better, more comfortable.
It is,
I
definitely.
love it.
I think it's going to really improve the show. But we're actually going to start with a new topic, NCAA swimming. Conference tournaments are approaching, so we want to focus on some of the best teams and stars that we might see go far in the tournament. And we're going to start with the best team in men's college swimming, which I think it's obvious, but we picked Arizona State, specifically Ezra picked Arizona State. So Ezra, tell us about Arizona State a little bit.
Yeah, as you can see, we didn't get the budget upgrade, but they did. But it's okay, it's okay. Arizona State, they're the top team right now. They've been the top team all season. Every single month, every single meet that's passed, they have been number one. There hasn't been any way to overtake them. Even the likes of Cal, who won last season, like they've been unbeatable. They have four guys as the top 4 rankings in all of Division I for swimming right now. 2 of the guys that I've thought about just discussing were Hubert Coase and Leon Marchand. Leon Marchand's actually going to be participating in the Olympics, this coming Olympics in Paris. And he's going to be participating for France, so he's almost going to be like a hometown kid for them. But altogether, they've been very well-rounded. They have 9 total championships. They'll probably make it 10 after this season. They have 10 top times across all of Division I for across each individual style. So I think it's not really competitive. Like NC State could have a chance, Florida could have a chance, but I just don't see anybody beating this top dog right now.
Well, it's interesting that you say that they might move to 10 total championships. I think when you look at Cal, who won, I believe, in the past 2 years, I don't know exactly where they would rank on your power rankings for the championship, but if there was any team to win the national championship outside of Arizona State, who do you think it would be?
I mean, it would. You put it very well. It would have to be Cal, in my opinion. Like, Cal has won the last 2. They've done it in comeback fashion as well. They haven't been exactly top the entire season. I would vote Cal as well. They have some pretty top guys over there, but it's gonna be a tough run for them. This is a very stacked, very, very stacked Arizona State squad right now.
No, absolutely. And when you're looking at that Arizona State team, what are the exact strengths, maybe perhaps in some of the events that they compete in? What are their strengths as a team total, and what makes them so great and so dominant?
Their strengths as a team, I would say, is having their top guys be able to compete across so many different styles. Like Hubert Coase competes in 4 different styles. Leon Marchand competes in 4 different styles. Another guy who I won't name right now because I know somebody else wants to bring him up later. He competes in 5 different styles. Like, being able to get your best swimmers out in the water more often is going to lead you to be able to, compete at a much higher level. So I think that's their biggest strength of all, instead of just having one top guy only competing twice per meet.
That is a really good point, Ezra, because it is amazing to see a lot of these swimmers have multiple championships or awards in multiple different events. So it's really impressive to see how versatile they are. And Giovanni, now that we focus on the best team, who do you think are some top swimmers in the NCAA currently?
Well, Maddie, like Ezra said, Arizona State already has 4 of the best swimmers in the country. I just wanted to highlight Ilya Karun. He's a freshman out of Las Vegas. He ranks number 2s all across the board. He's 2nd in college, 2nd in D1, and Pac-12 at ASU. And he's number 1 in Canada, though, nationally. He holds the school record in the 100 fly with 44.33 and the 200 fly also. He has so many accolades and achievements at a young age, and he made his collegiate debut swimming long course meters and won all 3 events that he competed in. He started his college career placing first at 15 plus, and he has so much in store. Honestly, I feel like coming out as a freshman, he's done very well, but he's just going to keep improving, and I'm excited to see what he has for in the future. And for my second player, I want to talk about Andrei Minikov. He's a junior, and he was born in St. Petersburg in Russia. And his positions are free and the fly. He has the 2022 NCAA 100 fly champion, and he owns 7 Stanford records, ranking from free to fly to free relay to medley relay. And Stanford, it's funny that I'm talking about these two because Stanford did see ASU in a meet earlier this year. And in my opinion, he's the best college player that does not attend Arizona State University.
I agree.
Yeah, those are really good points. And Patrick and I are going to take over the women's college swimming side, starting with Virginia, best team, you would say?
Yeah, and they're by far the best team. Similar to Arizona State, look, this team has a very good history, but just recently they are hitting a new level. You know, every time we cover a collegiate sport that is kind of going undercover nationally, we always make the analogy that they're the Alabama of this sport. Well, that is definitely the case for Virginia right now because they are on a three-peat and they're looking for a four-peat. They're undefeated this year. And under their current coach, I believe they're 45-4 as the total record over the last, 5 years. They're going for their 5th conference championship. They're led by Caitlin Douglas and Gretchen Walsh, who I know is definitely a player that Maddie is going to want to highlight later. They're just overall one of the best teams in the nation. I believe last night they set a conference record for the 800 free relay. I mean, that's just greatness right there.
Yeah.
What else can you say? They're a very great team. And also, if you're wondering at home, how many teams have had a 4-peat in women's swimming? There's only 2 other teams. And one is Stanford, I believe, in the 90s, where they won 5 in a row, and then Texas in the 80s, where they won 4 in a row. So this is definitely uncharted waters.
Yeah, and
for,
going
women's
for the
swimming.
4-peat, where do you think this run would rank all time if you're ranking them?
I think just considering that this is their first championship was at the beginning of this 4-peat, and then at the end, I think it's historic. This is an organization, or excuse me, a program that has lifted into the rankings of some of the greats, and I think that that's more impressive, in my opinion, than some of the other teams like Stanford or Texas who have had storied programs for all of these years.
Yeah, and then I'm going to mention some women swimmers who have really been just amazing this year, starting with Gretchen Walsh, who was part of that Virginia squad. She is a junior, and she is just one of the best swimmers in the world. She hasn't swam in the Olympics yet, but we're going to see her there. She won the national championship, obviously, in the past 3 years, and she's also a 14-time All-American. So I'm excited to see her in the Olympics this year because Olympic swimming is very fun to watch.
And they do All-Americans by
each event. So you can be All-American in the breaststroke, you can be All-American in backstroke, butterfly, all that stuff. So that's why, speaking of Catherine Burkhoff, we were talking about this earlier, she's a 25-time All-American. So she's a graduate student now and a 4-time NCAA champion as well in individual events. So you can be individual NCAA champion as well as a team. She's also been doing amazing with NC State, and she's a 5-time ACC champion. So they're another team that could, possibly give Virginia a run for its money. But I think Virginia's going to hopefully go for the 4P. I think that'd be really cool to see.
Yeah, I do as well. I wouldn't pick or put my money on anybody else outside of Virginia right now.
And now, thank you for joining us for that segment, boys, over on the couch. But moving into my nightlight, it is a UCF women's golfer who finished first in an event this season.
Jack, buddy, why are you here?
I don't really understand why I'm here. I got called a delusional fan. I just don't understand why I'm delusional if I think Kirk Cousins had the best mustache in the league.
Well, Jack, buddy, I don't want to be the one to tell you this, but I don't think anybody looks cool in handlebars.
But they're back, man. They're back.
They're not. They're not. Sometimes you just got to face the hard truth. It's right there in front of you. All these people, they're calling you delusional, but sometimes you got to worry about, am I projecting? Is it me? And in this
Let me
case,
tell you something, bud. It could never be me. Anything I say is factual and truth, and that's why the Vikings are going 16-1 this year.
Organization, you have to look at your roster and say, I've had Kirk O'Duggins for 6 years. Maybe it's time to move on.
There is no moving on from Kirk Thuggins and Justin Jefferson.
Do you think that maybe this all started just because of a little disappointment?
Nothing has started. This is how I live, and I am not delusional. I'm a prophet.
And for the reveal, it is Molly Smith. She's a freshman golfer on the UCF golf team. She has a stroke average of 69 and has a low 18 of 65. She also has 3 top 3 finishes and 1 first place finish. So we're seeing a lot from the freshman this season.
Yeah, and now we're going to move into baseball. We got John joining us on the couch. Sucks that Elijah couldn't come today. I know that's your right-hand man when it comes to college baseball, but today we're talking biggest takeaways from opening weekend. John, kick us off.
So from opening weekend, we have to look back to last season to kind of get a precedent for where we are. And I think that there's no team that's in a better position to make a run in the College World Series in 2024 than the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Wake Forest ultimately came up short to LSU last year in a heartbreaking semifinal loss. It went to 3 games. But with that being said, Wake Forest does return a lot of talent, and they've also made a couple of key additions. So you have, most importantly, Chase Burns transferring from the University of Tennessee, and we all know what kind of program they have. So it says a lot about a guy when he's coming from the University of Tennessee. But Chase Burns is an absolute stud, right-handed pitcher with a fastball that can touch 102 miles an hour, and he also has a plus slider. So this guy's the real deal. Pitched 6 scoreless innings in the opening week, so I think just a little taste of what's to come for Chase Burns. Then elsewhere, you have Seaver King coming in from Wingate, which is a Division II school. But the thing about that is, while you might discount it because it's Division II, there's still a lot of talent there. But without a doubt, Seaver King was the best non-Division I player in America last year. So adding him to an already stacked team like Wake Forest, that just makes them a real powerhouse.
And then speaking of LSU, they obviously won the championship last year and lost 2 of the best players in college baseball with the first 2 picks to the Pirates and the Nationals, I believe. John, what can you tell me about Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens?
So obviously, whenever you lose quite literally the 2 best players in college baseball in the same year at the same time, that's going to hurt. But I don't think LSU can be written off quite yet. I think LSU is still a team to be reckoned with. They're still ranked pretty high. But they might see a little bit of regression this year. And that's to be understood whenever you lose 2 generational talents, including the 2023 Golden Spikes winner in Dylan Cruz. But they're going to look to replace that production with Tommy White. Yes, Tommy Tanks. Everyone knows he broke onto the scene with NC State a few years ago, transferred to LSU last year, but did get overshadowed a little bit. Wasn't exactly in the spotlight, and for understandable reasons. LSU had just an absolutely loaded team. But I think it's fair to say that LSU will be right there come College World Series time, but I'm not sure that they can repeat as champions.
And, they had a phenomenal series against Wake Forest last year in the College Baseball World Series semis. Now, I know you said it might be tough for them to repeat, but I think you could almost say the same thing for Wake Forest. I mean, that's such a crushing loss. Like, how are they going to bounce back as this season's gone on? They obviously already dropped a game to UNC Greensboro, but that's just kind of the nature of college baseball. Teams are going to rack up the L's. They're going to have losses on the record. They're not going to be undefeated. But I did want to ask you. So officially, you do think that Wake Forest would be your pick right now to win the College Baseball World Series, or is there any team even outside of LSU, because they're in a stacked SEC conference, that you think could take it all the way in Omaha?
So yes, Wake Forest is my pick to win, but that's not really that bold of a pick because they are the number 1 ranked team. They are the favorites going into the year. But a team to look out for is the Arkansas Razorbacks. And when you think of college baseball, you think of the SEC, but you do not think of Arkansas. Yes, Arkansas did make the College World Series a few years ago and did lose to Oregon State. But with that being said, usually they're kind of overshadowed a lot by Florida, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, like blue bloods of college baseball essentially. But Arkansas is a very good team. They have the best freshman class incoming in college baseball. And you also have a couple of key transfers coming in from Texas Tech. They took their ace, Mason Molina, and Texas Tech is a great program. Like, Texas Tech might be the best team in the Big 12. So to steal their best pitcher and add that into an already solid rotation in the SEC, they could make some noise, but it is the SEC, so there's definitely going to be a lot of competition. But I do like Arkansas as a team to watch out for.
No, absolutely. I mean, and with the certain landscape of college baseball and college sports in general, you're looking at transfer classes and recruiting classes and how those will stack up next year. But I did have a team also, and it's Northeastern. This is a team, if you're not tapped into college baseball, you might not have heard of or ever heard of. But essentially, I made the analogy of Alabama last segment, and I'm going to do a similar one now. This team is kind of like the Gonzaga of basketball. All the years past. Gonzaga is a blue blood now, but like back in the day, they were kind of a mid-major. So I would say Northeastern's that team. They had 45 wins last year. They returned all but 2 starters, and they pretty much poached every guy that was in the lower level talent brackets, essentially, lower level divisions, and brought them up to Northeastern. So they got those guys. And they're returning 5 guys who've hit 10 or more home runs last year, so they got power. They're in the CAA conference, so you're not going to hear about them until probably the College Baseball World Series and when that comes back around. But for now, I would definitely say bookmark that team because that's one of the best teams. Now, Maddie, I know that you also have an underrated team.
Yes, I'm also going back to the SEC. I think another team that goes under the radar is actually Auburn. They have a lot of returners from last year, and I believe they were in the tournament last year and even hosted a game. And they have some star power like Ike Irish and Joseph Gonzalez. And I think they're just a very well-coached team and have the potential to be kind of a solid team that is, you know, goes under the radar and then in the tournament does something special.
No, absolutely. I mean, and then that's just boding well for the SEC. The SEC is super powerful. Was there anybody else that you wanted to highlight on Arkansas? Because I know that they had an amazing recruiting class, specifically a 6'6", 230-pound freshman, Hunter Dietz. Definitely one of the best players that they had in that recruiting class. He's 19 years old.
Yeah, so Hunter Dietz, like you mentioned, huge frame, absolutely what you're looking for in a D1 pitcher, but he's a lefty as well, so that certainly helps. Not a lot of teams get to see that kind of power pitching from the left side, so I think having a guy like Dietz, and he's super young too, so you know you're going to get a few years of production out of him, so definitely look for him to make an impact right out of the chute.
No, absolutely. And then other teams I think that are worth mentioning for the underrated teams to watch this year are UC Irvine and Florida State. But I think we should probably move into our Golden Spikes Award choices. I believe D1Baseball.com came out with a 55-man watch list at the beginning of the year, but we're going to keep it a little shorter. Yeah. Maddie, because me and John agree on our pick.
Oh, yes.
You can go
You guys
ahead.
did have the same pick. I picked Wake Forest, Nick Kurtz. He's in his junior season, and he was actually a finalist for the Golden Spikes Award last year and was on that 55-man preseason list and also on Nighttime's 2-person list. He made third team All ACC after hitting .353 with 87 hits, 24 home runs, and 69 RBIs with a 1.113 OPS. Very versatile player. He plays right field and first base and is poised to be one of those high draft picks. So Wake Forest, they're going to be a good team this year. They're going to go far. I could see him having a great season and end up winning that award.
Yeah, wait, let me ask John something about that pick real quick. Do you think it's better for the player if they are on a winning team for this award? Because he's obviously on Wake Forest.
Oh, absolutely. It definitely helps when you're on a better team. It's just like college and the Heisman. Like, very rarely, if ever, do you see a guy that's on a bad team. Like, the exception kind of being like Jaden Daniels with LSU and then Lamar Jackson with Louisville a few years ago. But most of the time, your MVP, your Heisman, your Golden Spikes, they're going to come from teams that are playing under the national spotlight. And, I mean, it makes sense. Like, if you're going to be a valuable player, you're going to play for a team that's going to be there at the end of the year. So it definitely helps for him that he's on Wake Forest.
And now you guys have the same pick, but I'll start with John. John, how about you go over your Golden Spikes preseason pick, and Patrick will add on anything you left off.
So I'm going to go with Jack Caglione from Florida, and he's not only a slugging first baseman like Nick Kurtz, they're both lefties, first baseman, but he's also a two-way player. He's a pitcher as well, so that definitely helps his case. He's not just a pitcher, he's a weekend starter for Florida, who was the runner-up in college baseball last season. So like the guy from Kurtz from Wake Forest, he's going to be playing in the national spotlight. Florida's going to be there in the College World season of the year. So he's definitely going to have a chance to shine when the lights are the brightest.
No, absolutely. And a guy who had 33 home runs and 90 RBI is going to give him last season is going to give himself a chance to get this award. I believe there were 8 semifinalists who made the watch list, but he was the only finalist to make the watch list. The rest of them obviously probably in the draft and are long gone. But that's all the time that we have.
I think I have a question for John. I know he's a statement. Is he the Shohei Ohtani of college baseball? You said he's a two-way player.
I'm not willing to go that far. I don't think he probably won't be a pitcher when he goes to the MLB, but he is right now the favorite to be the #1 overall pick in the draft. So to the Cleveland Guardians, who have the #1 pick. So he's definitely a player to watch out for.
I didn't even know they had the
I think Jared Fox would be very disappointed in your lack of being able to pull the trigger on that one. He would have definitely said he was the Shohei Ohtani of college baseball. But
John, any final thoughts on the college baseball opening weekend or season?
Watch college baseball. If you're not watching college baseball, watch it. It's great.
All right.
It's all over ESPN. So,
yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, my nightlight is a player that we highlighted in our UCF baseball preview a few weeks ago. And as a surprise to no one, he is on a tear through the first couple of games this season.
Hello,
Hello, my name is Tyler Brownrigg. I hope you're enjoying watching whatever show it is that's playing right now here on Hitting the Field Network. And if you're interested in more of our shows or want to know more about the one you're currently watching, don't worry, I'm here to tell you. Our week starts off on Mondays with HTF Bets, hosted by the Bets Boys, Andrew Montana, Ezra Hines, and Giovanni St. Cyrin. You can catch that show live Mondays at noon for all things betting in sports. I highly recommend it. And then you can follow it off on Tuesday with The Combine, hosted by the illustrious Ty Patton. If you're in for a more laid-back, kind of podcast-style show, a lot more casual, that is definitely the show for you. Maybe you'll catch some Ty Squared action with me on there. Wednesdays, every week, you'll be able to catch the vlog, learn about what's going on behind the scenes here in the studio at Hitting the Field, get to know more about us, especially the people behind the camera, who they are, and what we do to make these shows every week. And on Thursdays, live at noon, you can watch the main show with me as your host every Thursday, where we'll be covering all of the major storylines for any sport, be it football, basketball, hockey, soccer, you name it, we'll be talking about it on the main show. And then Friday, you can watch Nighttime with your hosts, Maddie Glass and Patrick Previty, for all things college sports, especially with a focus on UCF sports and maybe the ones you haven't heard about so often, like tennis or women's track and field. It can be anything college on Nighttime. And if you're interested in joining Hitting the Field and you're a UCF student, DM us on any of our social medias at Hitting the Field, and also give us a follow on all those and subscribe to this channel if you want to catch more of our content. But enjoy the rest of your show. As always, I'm Tyler Brownrigg, and I'll be seeing you on Main Show.
My nightlight was Andrew Sundin. He's batting .444 with 5 total bases and 3 RBIs through the first couple games of the year for UCF baseball. Now joining us is assistant producer, and honestly, he puts the producing on he puts the graphics, I should say, maybe not the total producing, on his back
Yes,
for
he
the
does.
show. It's
He
Justice
does.
Covert. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be talking the NCAA College Football 25 video game that's coming out this summer. There's pending release date. This is something I've been waiting for since I was like a little kid, since I was like 12 years old. And we're going to be talking college football covers. Who should
Yes.
be on the cover? We've separated it into 3 groups, all-time, UCF, and current players. Justice.
All graphics were made by Justice, by the way. He did
Yeah.
a fantastic job, and I can't wait for everyone to see them.
No, absolutely.
So,
which
starting
one
with
we should-
Justice
Hello.
picks.
Yes.
Yes.
So just we're going to go through the overview of who we picked so far. So for my current pick, I went with Shedeur Sanders, and then I went with McCaffrey as my all-time pick, which all-time is pretty much just 2014 to current day, so all the players who could have been on it but weren't. And then UCF was Gus Malzahn.
Yes.
Okay, with all due respect.
We'll get to
Yeah.
it when
Okay.
he goes
Okay, yeah,
over.
we're
We're
gonna get
going to
into
dive
this.
into each
Okay,
individual
yeah.
pick. But moving on to my picks, for current, I did Nick Saban, actually, not a player, but coach. All time since 2014, I did Joe Burrow for my cover athlete. And then UCF player, I did Mackenzie Millen.
I think those are more respectable picks. in my
Thank you.
opinion. I
Okay.
like them. I guess we're bending the rules for current player. We're choosing
I
coaches.
mean,
that is fine with me.
yeah.
Okay. I chose Baker Mayfield as my all-time player. I chose Shaq Griffin as my UCF player. The beef is squashed. And I chose Caleb Williams as my current player in the landscape of everything. So I think that those are some pretty
Yeah,
good picks.
I like 'em.
We
I
want
like
to roll
'em.
through these through the all-time pick first.
I think we're going to do current
Current,
player
yeah.
Okay,
first,
guys. Okay.
based
What
on
do
the
I know?
order that we have
All right.
selected.
Yeah, just so,
and
so our graphics guy doesn't lose his mind
yes,
right there.
Justice will start it off.
Yeah, so I went with Shedeur Sanders. Now, I was originally, like, the safe bet I think is probably Jaden Daniels because he won the Heisman. You know, it's just the safe bet. But I didn't want to make 2 LSU covers because Maddie already picked Joe Burrow, so I wasn't going to go through that. I went with
That's very
Shedeur, though,
valid.
because it's a fun pick. I mean, you know, you see the cover, he's like showing off, you know, his watch. Coach Prime is going to be big in marketing it, and, you know, I think he's a fun personality. So I went with Sanders.
I think this is a really realistic pick, actually. I think if there was a player that was playing next year, currently in college football, it would be Shedeur Sanders, or it could be Travis Hunter, but I think it would be one of those 2 guys on Colorado. Like, I see that as being like a big-time get. They're both big
Yeah, a
box
lot of
office
attention.
players.
Yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of social media attention. Get the views up.
It kind of screams cover athlete, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And also he's actually staying in college football,
Yes.
which can't be
Yeah.
said
That
for
is
the other.
important.
Yeah, the other 2 guys. One's retiring, and the other's going
Yeah.
in the draft. So Sanders is actually still going to be in college football next year, going to be in the game. So I
Yeah.
think that'd be a big
Okay,
plus for him.
I'm going to move on to mine. And while I hear your points, nobody in college football that plays now has a bigger legacy than Nick Saban, and he hasn't been on a cover, I believe. I don't actually know. I've never played the game. But he's the greatest coach of all time in college sports. So easy decision, more of a legacy than any college player. 6 national championships. I mean, like, I don't know how you don't put him on. I know Justice was saying, I guess they have deluxe cover versions.
Yeah, they'll probably charge people like $20 extra just to have Nick Saban
so,
cover.
but, you know, I think it's an easy decision. If they do decide to go that route, I think, you know, he has more attention, more draw than a lot of these players because, you know, how famous he is, and he's going to continue to be in the college world on College game day. So I think it'd be a really cool opportunity for them to put him on the cover and kind of honor him in that way.
I completely agree, actually. I would say that even naming the game after him would be like
I heard
something
that
that
too.
I
like
could
Madden.
see. Yeah, like exactly like Madden. I believe Madden like donates his own money into that game or into the production of the game, especially when it first started out. But I could definitely see them saying Saban 26 or whatever. I mean, hey, maybe it wasn't like that for Madden when it first started, but it'll roll off the tongue eventually if they keep doing it. So
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea.
no, absolutely. I chose Caleb Williams as my current player. I think this guy's going to go number 1 in the draft. I think that's pretty obvious. I think his stock is down right now. He won the Heisman last season, a couple seasons ago, so he's a bit removed. And last year, obviously, USC kind of came up short in a lot of big games. So I don't think his stock is as high, and I think right now he's getting picked apart in the pre-draft process. But I think overall, this is a guy who's going to have a great NFL career, and I would look at being the best player in college football for the most part. So I think he would fit as a good cover.
I think he's an E decision. I don't know how it works. Do you either of you know how it works, like with the draft? If they're drafting, can they still be on the cover?
So the last cover athlete was Denard Robinson, and 2 months before the game got released, he got drafted in the NFL. So, yeah,
so there's a precedent.
Yeah, he could still be on the cover. So it's not like crazy for them to do that. I think it's okay, but they may want to make it to where the cover athlete, like I said, with Sanders, would still be in the game. So
yeah, that would make sense.
And also, that was a time before NIL, too, so I don't know
Yeah.
exactly if that was the reason for it either. They needed a player that was going pro and didn't have the eligibility, but that could have also contributed to that.
Well, now since this is a UCF sports show and we do get into UCF sports, we're going to go into our UCF picks. Justice has a little controversial pick, which Patrick and him will get into, but start us off. Give us your reasons.
Okay, so a lot of people like to give Gus a lot of crap, and I don't really agree with it. I think he's a good coach. He hasn't had the best records of the last previous seasons, but I really went with this because I wanted to put the Gus bus on a video game cover, and you can see it at the bottom of the video game cover there. It also got Space Shuttle in the background. But I like Gus. I think he's fun. I think he's funner than, Scott Frost and people in the past. So that's why I went with Gus. I thought it'd be just a fun pick to do.
So, yeah, that's exactly where I was going to head. I was going to say Scott Frost. If you pick a coach from UCF, I think it should be him. Now, he flamed out at Nebraska, but I would say, look, at the end of the day, he's probably our best coach in our football history. So I think I would have went with Scott Frost. I don't hate on Gus Malzahn. I just think, cover coach worthy. I don't know if I was seeing it. Maybe even Josh Heupel first over him.
I like the Gus Bus pick, and I understand his creative reasoning. It's a cool thing to put the Gus Bus on the
bus looks
game.
cool on the cover, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree. And then I guess we'll move into my pick, Mackenzie Milton. He played 3 seasons at UCF, threw for 8,683 yards and 72 passing touchdowns. I mean, he led the team to its first undefeated season in 2017. I feel like it's a good pick, especially since 2014, probably one of the best players, or if not the best, and was tied for a highest finish in the Heisman race. So I think he has a legacy here at UCF, and the fans love him, and I think it'd be really cool to see him, on a UCF edition of the cover.
No, absolutely. And in all honesty, I would have probably taken Milton. But
I got my picks in first.
You snagged him before I did. I chose Shaq Griffin. Now I didn't put him on the Mount Rushmore a handful of shows ago, but look, he can make it onto the cover of this video game.
Yeah.
That's fine. When you think about the 2017 teams and that era of UCF football, I think you think of Milton, Scott Frost, and Shaq Griffin.
Yeah.
And obviously he had a great story whenever he came out into the NFL draft, ran like a 4.3. So the dude's got a bit of a legacy there too, and he's kind of UCF royalty. So I'd put him on the.
I agree.
Yeah, the beef is kind of squashed in that sense for us.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we're gonna move on to players since 2014, since the last time the game came out, of who we thought they should have deserved a cover based on their seasons. And I'll start with Justice. Who's your all-time player?
Yeah, so I went with Christian McCaffrey, went with CMC, because, we were all picking quarterbacks, so I wanted to mix it up and not pick a quarterback, pick a running back. So the two top guys in my mind were Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey. And I didn't want to do Derrick Henry because I'm a Jags fan. I hate Derrick Henry. Christian McCaffrey, though, in 2015, he came in second in Heisman voting, had over 2,000 rushing yards, over 2,600 total scrimmage yards. I mean, he was one of the best running backs during that time span of who could have been on the cover. So definitely want to go with McCaffrey.
Yeah, I like that pick.
I think that's a good pick. He probably should have won the Heisman that year, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
I think that that's a great pick. Great NFL career, too. So I ended up taking Baker Mayfield. Now, I think that just his story as a walk-on at Texas Tech, then going to Oklahoma, being the first walk-on to win a Heisman, it's just a great story. He has big game appearances in the college football playoff, conference championship games, all the above. Baker Mayfield, also well known in the NFL. I think that's a cover that would sell. I think people would want to buy it. Now, I kind of went back and forth with him and Johnny Manziel. They were looked at as almost like similar players back when Baker Mayfield was in college, but I went with Mayfield. But I felt like Money Manziel deserved a shout out because I definitely think that a lot of college football fans would like him to be on the cover.
Yeah, I like that pick too. Justice, do you have any feelings on his pick?
Yeah, I think Mayfield was definitely one of the most polarizing people in sports at that time. Same thing with Manziel. And, he was a good player, too. Backed it up, winning the Heisman. One of the most iconic moments was when he planted the flag in Ohio State, and I have that in the background on the cover. So, yeah, I think he definitely would have been cover-worthy during his time, for sure.
Yeah, and I am going with the quarterback who had the greatest college football season in quarterback history, I would say. Joe Burrow. I think it's a fun pick. I think it's an easy pick. Most touchdown passes in a season, 60. Most total yards of offense in a season. I have a list out here. Most touchdowns responsible, most points in a season, most best completion in SEC history. Just so many legacies, and obviously won the Heisman, won the college football national championship, and just that 2019 LSU team was just something to watch. And I think, is it the greatest college football team?
In my opinion, I think they rank right up there with the 01 Miami Hurricanes.
So I just think he's very popular, obviously, and I think, a picture of him smoking a cigar or however Justice created it would be just a great cover, and I think it'd sell really well. If I'm on their marketing team, I'm making a Joey B edition.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And now let's real quick do our primetime picks because we're getting the Wrap It Up single. But it's college basketball, number 13 Alabama at number 17 Kentucky. I'll just start. I'm taking Kentucky. I'm expecting a bounce-back game. They lost last night on a very heartbreaking buzzer beater against LSU, actually. But they've only lost 2 games in a row this season once, so I'm confident in their ability to bounce back. Justice, who do you have?
I don't know much about college basketball, but
Okay.
I'm confident in Maddie, so I'm going to go
Thank
with
you.
Kentucky. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we both have a 2-3 record, so
Maybe you shouldn't be so
yeah.
confident, Maddie. Look, I got to be honest, that's some great research. But look, Alabama admittedly doesn't play any defense, but they score a lot of points. They scored nearly 100 points in the last 3 games, and they have in 2 of the last 3 games. So they're going to put up some points, and I think that they're going to end up coming out ahead, honestly.
Okay, well, that's all the time we have for this week episode of Nighttime. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Justice, for making all those graphics. And, we'll see you next week, again, at the desk. Bye.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.